Let me call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting for the town of Kiowa for September the 9th, 2025. Patrick, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman Farrell?
Here?
Mayor Bell?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Ms. Tillerston? Here. Ms. Schubert? Here.
First order of business is the approval of the minutes from July 1st. Any additions or corrections that have not been submitted?
None from me, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to commend the clerk. That was a rather lengthy Ways and Means Committee meeting, rather detailed discussion on a wide range of issues, particularly related to state accommodations tax allocations, and I commend the town clerk for capturing that discussion.
2 letters, A and I.
Just take credit for it. Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. With that, the minutes are approved. Citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to old business. None. New business. Consideration of the town council to approve a boat purchase. Jim?
All right. Well, good morning. So I'm gonna tee this up. So as we all know, we did budget for the town to purchase a boat, and we've spent a considerable amount of time trying to pick the right boat. So we've been back and forth with the mayor and others, town staff, trying to figure out what makes the most sense, trying to find a boat that will do, everything that the town might want it to do. And so we pretty much settled on something around 20 feet long, ideally at least 8 feet wide, comfortable seating for at least 5 adults, and kind of went through a bunch of different options. And so what is presented today were kind of the 2 options that, after we went through and looked at a lot of different brands and boat types, we kind of settled on 2, and kind of went back and forth on which of those 2 made the most sense. And based on all of the discussion internally, the recommendation is the Robalo 206 Cayman, and happy to share more details on that, or if the mayor wants to take it from here, that's fine as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I might shed a little additional color on this, and I want to commend Mr. Jordan, the Director of the Wildlife and Natural Resources Department, for his balanced presentation on these issues. Everybody has their kind of biases about what we're trying to solve for. Just one with regard to the price, it comes under the price we budgeted, and it's my recollection, and I think it's an accurate recollection, is it was actually the chairman who had recommended a larger amount than I had initially proposed. And in fact, it turns out that that was an astute suggestion.
Can we capture that in the minutes, please?
Because solving for needs and not having to get a used boat with issues related to that, that hit the number very squarely. I think part of the tension in our discussion was what would be the primary utilization of the vessel, and I think in fairness to Mr. Jordan and the Wildlife and Natural Resources Department, the view is probably they would be the primary users. But my view, and in that case, with they as the primary users, I think there was a bias for a flatter bottom, even shallower, aluminum hulled boat that was lighter, that could get a little tighter into marshes and oyster beds and what have you. And I certainly appreciate that perspective. As we discussed originally, however, the real utilization of this boat is not simply for the Wildlife and Natural Resources Department. It's expected to be utilized by, in appropriate instances, public safety or code enforcement, and there may be opportunities, and I think Councilmember Kay may comment upon this a little bit later today, for either council members and or committee members, resiliency and environmental committee members, to also utilize the boat to assess the marsh health conditions, flooding, intrusion, et cetera. And I think we also want to have a vehicle, a vessel that is capable of handling, obviously, this is a bay boat, not really suited for significant offshore adventures, but we do have jurisdiction, police power jurisdiction to a mile out of offshore and halfway across the navigable rivers, which include the Edisto, which can get a little choppy, and the Kiowa River. And this would allow us to have occasional presence, for example, at Sandy Point, or to respond to emergency situations offshore, or even to patrol offshore. We actually have ordinances regarding activities to 500 yards offshore on the ocean side, in addition to ordinances addressing Sandy Point. We don't really have the current ability to effectively enforce those, let alone monitor. So this is trying to solve for a number of different needs. That's why at the end of the day, I'll take kind of primary ownership with this, but we had to have staff discussion, we got additional staff input that the recommendation is to go with the Robalo.
And you covered quite a bit of what I was thinking as well. I am wondering if you're going to get Craig a little blue flashing light to go on it.
I think that we would almost certainly want to have that. We'll have town insignia, placed on the boat and whatever little flag or something like that. Again, in some cases, just to have some visibility and presence.
Spotlight. Yeah, stuff like that. And, I was thinking public works as well, bridge inspections and things like that, getting underneath the bridges. Yep. And so is a wide use for it. And, safety is important, which I know you considered. And I was thinking that I'm probably one of the people who'll be in that boat at one point. So comfort to an appropriate amount is good as well. So, as we're looking at Sandy Point and getting, island familiarity and oversight.
Are you able to show the images of the...
Put the image of the boat up on the screen, please, if you can, Neil.
This is the actual...
The actual boat, yeah.
The actual boat.
Yeah, it's a 2024 model. It's in stock at Longshore Marine.
And so it's at a discount to MSRP, in part because I think it's a 24, but it is new.
So I have a couple questions. And the background is I actually owned a Mako.
Okay.
Center console, 21.5 foot, so I know this type of boat. A couple of questions. Are you sure, kind of given that we're on an island, that this is a bay boat, not an offshore boat? So it's a shallow freeboard?
Yep.
Are you sure you want a shallow freeboard? And I know your response could be, I want a shallow draft, but even the offshores, their draft is only about 18 inches. And it's really a function of the type of motor you get. So that's my first question. Are you sure you want a bay boat, given
Yes.
Sandy Point and the ability maybe to go around through the ocean?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in bay boats. I've been 40, 50 miles offshore in them. This boat in particular will easily handle 2 to 4 foot seas. It's a bay boat, but it is still got fairly high gunnels, and has a little bit of a deeper V bow than a lot of the other bay boats. So, I see this boat easily capable of handling any conditions that we would want to be out there in.
Big for this boat, but okay, you've thought about that, and
Yeah,
I
I wouldn't want to be out there in 4 foot, but...
I didn't like being out there in my boat before, but
The other thing is, right, if you want to take a boat from, right, you've got 2 launch points on Kiowa. You've got Eagle Point as well, but basically you've got Mingo and you've got Rhett's Bluff.
Yep.
And so if you are trying to get basically between the two, right, to go from Rhett's Bluff to Mingo, if you put in at Rhett's Bluff and you want to go down to Captain Sam's Inlet, you've got to run the Kiowa River in that section before you get to the bridge, which is, I don't know if you ever run that section, but it's very shallow and very tight. And it would be tough to get an offshore boat, even with an 18-inch draft through there. And also just the lower sides, they're still high enough to be a perfectly safe boat, but it just allows you to offload people, equipment, signage, anything you want to get off that boat if you're pulling up to to a hummock island or a sandbar or sandy point, right? It's a lot easier to
Oh,
get in and out of a
absolutely.
boat like
No
that
question about that.
than, you know, a deep V offshore boat.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that you're gonna, in many cases, you're gonna limit yourself to non-ocean travel. And that's okay, because I don't see a
You
whole
can-
lot of, other than ocean rescue.
Yeah, I don't see us going, you know, the thought was you're not going more than a mile, you know, offshore. What you want to be able to handle, I mean, you can have some good swells in the Edisto River off, you know, Sandy Point at times, and certainly some days more so just offshore. But that's one of the reasons we ended up, the recommendation was to go to the Robalo because it had a little bit more of a V-hull and a little bit more of a draft, but still could get into low places than the express boat or the Vexus.
Okay, as long as you thought through
Yeah,
that
I
in
mean,
your comparable.
we did. We also looked at what the fire department, St. John's, just bought a boat. And they actually bought an aluminum hulled boat, but they also bought a bay boat that's in this, theirs was slightly bigger, 23 feet, but, you know, obviously they did some research into what was you know, the best style boat to kind of do it all. And most, you know, I mean, of course, this boat can go in the ocean, but I don't see that happening on a regular basis, right? It's going to be more likely, you know, in the Kiowa River, you know, up in creeks, you know, looking at bulkheads. I mean, there's all kind of, you know, it
I
was
only
tricky.
see like a 5 or 10% chance you'd be asked to go into the ocean.
Well, I would actually, I mean, it may be 5%, 5 to 10% usage, not chance necessarily, but I would envision if we, a scenario where we get to the place where on peak holiday weekends, for example, we do have the boat kind of patrolling just offshore, whether Sandy Point or off the beach. In part because it's available there for emergency, readily available for emergency purposes. But again, that's assuming you've got relatively calm seas.
Second question is, the T-top, is that gonna be able to fit under the bridge, since that's gonna be your primary path? Or are you gonna, would you rather have a bimini than a T-top? It's,
Yeah, we looked at that, thought about that. Obviously, the hard top, right, provides you shade and coverage all the time, even if you're traveling at high speed, right? A bimini you got to take down if you're going probably over 20 or 25, depending on how windy it is. I don't think clearance under the bridge is an issue, except it, you know, maybe an extreme tide. I mean, we've got.
Today, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you would have to, you know, if you wanted to go into the bridge, you'd have to make sure the tide was below, you know, X, once we figure out what that is. But I can't remember the height of the boat with the hard top, but it's
be
probably
probably
8 feet,
yeah, at
7,
least 7 feet.
7 feet.
Above the water line.
Yeah, and we probably have that at the bridge on almost every tide.
Because you do see, I mean, I'm living on the river over there. I mean, you do see boats with T-tops regularly transiting the river.
I haven't, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Normally,
Faster than I'd like to see them transiting.
I think,
Also, too, if you're gonna go to Sandy Point, put it in Mingo, so you don't have to go through.
put in at Rhett's.
But in Reds.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like, yeah, you just.
I know what you meant, yeah.
You pick your launch point and try to avoid going through all that skinny water between Rhett's and Mingo, because that is tough to navigate, you know, especially at low tide. So, you know, if you're going to Sandy Point, you put in at Rhett's. If you want to go to Captain Sam's, you put in at Mingo.
I would just, you know, again, ask you to think about that. I loved the T-top, had one, and it was great, other than it's kind of a sail in windy conditions.
Right.
Just think about that bridge issue, because
Yeah.
I'm surprised if you get 7 feet under there at most of the times.
We can look into that, but I'm pretty sure there's, yeah. But
And
I
I'm
can,
supportive of it, as long as, you know, if you guys know that issue and you're comfortable with it and the tides work.
Head out in the next few minutes. It was high tide about 20 minutes ago, and it's very high today.
yeah, we can so we have, as you know, we have a water monitoring station there, which is a Nile radar system, and so it reports water level, but actually what it's measuring is the distance from the bridge to the water, right? And then it's converting it based on the known elevation. So I could actually pull that up and see the distance between the radar and the water and know how much, what the distance is, how much room there is to get under it right now, so.
Yeah, I would hate to see you, like, want to inspect the east side of the bridge and have to put in at Reds Bluff.
Right.
Not be able to put in at Mingo.
Well, but of course, that, even then, that would only be true for a couple of hour period.
It's just a
Yeah,
big convenience
yeah,
issue.
yeah.
As long as you know those issues and you're okay with those, and the trouble you're gonna suffer, then I'm okay with that.
Sounds
And
good.
are we funding this through? We can fund this through, state tax.
Arguably, we could.
I mean, not Seabrook, but, Edisto has done this, exactly this, through state tax, so. We can talk about that offline, but
Yeah, and I'm not sure this would probably be, at best, the percentage allocation rather than fully, because it's, but I'm just not sure in this instance, given the amount, that it's necessary to go through the state, allocate out of state tax, but I'm not,
yep. Just know that it was done.
is that right?
Edisto.
Okay.
If anything, the road out, if we don't do general fund, do we do a percentage out of local? Instead of county, instead of state or county, we do have money in local that we may have a little bit more flexibility, we can probably pull it out of local. Of our local aid tax.
No, I mean, it qualifies for emergency vehicle use, and that would certainly be a permitted, state tax allocation.
Okay. That's all that I have. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the acquisition of the boat as recommended by staff.
Second. Is that good, Petra?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion's approved. That's all the business, chairman's report. I have, being that it's been the summer and I've been gone for a lot of the month, not much to say other than we've started our audits, both of them, right?
Right.
And they hope to be at least the financial done by the end of September and the process done shortly thereafter. So we're excited about the process audits we're undertaking.
Mr. Chairman, I would note that we've actually received a preliminary report on the internal controls assessment, which is very constructive.
Yes, that's word I'm looking for, not audit. So that's undertaken. So thank you, Ms. Treasurer, for taking care of that. That's all I have. Oh,
Okay.
and thank you, Jim, by the way. Thank you. Sure.
All right, and I'm gonna briefly present the budget report. This is just 1 month, July. So at the end of July, we collected about 1.5 million in revenues, which is about 562,000 more than we collected last year for July 2024. And this is about 9% of the total budgeted revenues. They all look, at this point, it's just 1 month. They, as expected, this is on a cash basis, so a lot of our revenues that are generated by tourists, they not received until the following month. Hence, those are all zeros, but there is few items that are that contribute to this positive variance where we compare to last year. First is the building permits. Even though we have issued about 100 less permits this July, we collected about 223,000 more in revenue in the permit fees, and that is related to the higher cost of construction, and also the new permit fees were not implemented until October, so they were on an old fee schedule. The business license revenue is also higher, about 175,000, as we issue about 140 more business licenses. And that's mostly due to the efforts of my department. We've been going after those businesses that have show an effort to get on the island, but by getting a decal, but didn't have a license. So we've been working on this project. And also the waste fees are a little higher, but this is just how the people are paying. So there is really no other explanation. The expenditures are also tracking within the budget. They are about 1.1 million, a little more than last year, and it's about 6% of the total expenditures for this year.
So I have a question about the business license. If somebody, like a delivery, doesn't have a business license in the company, and I know they pay $40 at the gate for delivery, does that go to Kika, or does some of that come to us, or how does that?
To them. If they're paying to Kika, this is just a decal or the sticker to get on the island. We require separate license, but it depends. On the delivery companies are a little tricky, because if it's a delivery from the store and the store owns it, like furniture store in Charleston, if they're using, so then they need a business license. If it's a separate, they regulate it differently, so then they don't need a business license. Delivery company doesn't. So it's a little
So if it's a
tricky.
delivery coming from
North Carolina.
They will not need, they interstate laws apply to them. They get different licenses.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? No, and as the chairman mentioned, we had the auditors here last week on site, both groups, and work is ongoing. And I'll have the financial audit draft in for November town council meeting. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gerard.
Citizens' comments? Any other comments?
I've got one. And we're going for a record. I mentioned in my comments at the last council meeting, recommending we consider a land bank or something like that, and maybe support financially some strategic land purchases that benefit the community. Examples would be aesthetics, reduce traffic, conservation, things like that. I know there's other peer kinds of processes in the local area that do things like that. I don't know where that starts. I imagine Ways and Means is involved at some point, perhaps a lot. But I was just interested in thoughts about pursuing that.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Please.
I'm certainly supportive of considering, or that conceptually, that approach.
Explore it.
I mean, the state has a conservation bank. The county has its Green Belt Fund. We have adequate resources to potentially contribute or invest in land acquisition or conservation easements. There isn't a legal issue with regard to that. We have the financial wherewithal. I think ultimately, and I would love to, maybe we set up a little task force on the efficacy of establishing some type of more formal mechanism. Right now, we've been looking at those issues on an opportunistic, one-off basis, which I would encourage us to still do in the interim. One of the issues that arises is a policy matter, and it's one that's come up in the context of accommodations tax dollars, or the allocation of state accommodations tax dollars that the chairman has raised, is kind of how far afield.
How far out? Is it river, is it Bohicket? I mean,
Yeah,
is it Maine?
and you certainly, I think it's fair, I would not have any argument with any view that's expressed that there needs to be some kind of clear nexus to Kiowa Island or benefit to Kiowa Island. We might, have different views about what that exactly entails. Very clearly, my view, it doesn't have to be money spent in the town are on Kiowa Island, but if there's a clear benefit, environmental benefit, traffic congestion reduction or mitigation, wildlife habitat protection benefit, and it covers some portion of Johns Island, which I think it would. I would certainly be supportive of that. And I think it would make sense to set up some type of formal mechanism for organizations, whether it be the Low Country Land Trust or the Kiowa Conservancy or similar ones, to be able to apply to the town just as they do to the State Conservation Bank and the Greenbelt Fund, and that we have a more rigorous process and criteria established for how to evaluate those types of opportunities. So, I mean, yes, a long-winded answer. We haven't actually kind of crystallized that or moved forward, and I can certainly kind of put that on the relatively near-term agenda, along with the other few things, to try to figure out how we move forward on that. I would, again, doesn't preclude us from opportunistically. And indeed, may want to come back with some opportunistic things that may be presented in the near term to address exactly the kinds of issues that you've identified, Councilmember Spencer. Different thoughts, Mr. Chairman?
I'm gonna just leave it with what you said.
Okay.
There's some other thoughts, but I think I'll just say those.
Okay.
Yeah, and just thank you both for considering. I agree. It's exploring. A task force sounds like a good idea, and we both touched on, I think, considerations that would benefit the community that we would probably need to more formalize and think through. I think I said it in my council comments last month that every time I see a new sign going up on Bohicket, I'm thinking, oh, what's that going to do to traffic? What's that going to do to the aesthetic? We don't want to look like Hilton Head driving in. We want the ambiance of Kiowa for people driving in. So, all those things I think are things we should explore.
Well, the clearest benefit of conservation of land in Johns Island is that means it's not developed, so less traffic and less congestion, less negative or adverse impact on the environment and the watershed.
Right. Thank you.
There are no other comments? Stephanie?
Thank you. I just wanted to make two comments. One, thank you all for your support through the water damage that we've had. And probably, hopefully, in about a month or two, we'll have kind of the final totals, what we've submitted to the insurance company based on our deductible. We have a $3,000 deductible. So we're hopefully to get reimbursed back for our cost minus $3,000. But thank you. It's about 2 weeks. Thank you, Brian and Michael. They worked around the clock, and they worked very hard to try to get this, to get us back up and running, to get staff back in. So if you haven't been in the back area, see our new carpet, see the area there. So we're pretty fortunate. We did find potentially another head that was potentially corroded that we were able to address, hopefully, before it also corroded off. It was near the contractor's bathroom. We found that when we had them look at the other locations, and it looked like it was only 2 of the heads that they had put different types of metal, and it just did not work. So, so thank you. So cross our fingers.
Thank you.
And one thing we might
Process.
mention and reiterate at council meeting is explore devices that will monitor water flow and potentially automatically shut off, because this happened on a Sunday. If it had happened during the work week, we could have addressed it immediately, and there would have been virtually no damage associated with that, but it was flowing for a period of at least 24 hours.
That's a great idea. I had a little smart thing sensor by my water heater in Alexandria, and it would do exactly that. Very affordable.
Yeah, so we're looking at that. And I know normally we would do this during council meeting, the mayor was going to do it, but since our wildlife and natural resource director would not be there because of a family emergency, I would just like to publicly thank him for his
It
service.
wasn't clear to me whether you had to leave by 1:30 or,
Leave by 1:30.
well, so yes, then there would be an appropriate acknowledgement.
Yes.
at that point in time, if you can stick around.
But if you're going to stick around,
I will be here at 1 and stay till 1:30.
okay, great, then we're just going to thank him for his service, but we'll do that during council meeting.
Cold watch.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
If there's nothing else, then, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
We'll get you some.
I'll give you this book back.
I think we're gonna put in a rule where if we have a long one, the next month has to be a short one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Trying to stay organized.
Sure. That lasts for about 15 minutes?
No, so far it's been lasting for 2 weeks.
Hey.
They're going to be that bad?
I had a wing platter, but they didn't have bone-in wings, so they're all boneless, but they're barbecue and top. I got some cheese tenders, I got one tray of sliders.